All right, welcome everyone to the New Educators Institute. The New Educator Institute is brought to you by the Indiana IEP Resource Center, the Indiana Council for Exceptional Children, and the Indiana Department of Education. My name is Marcy Wilburn, and I'm the project coordinator for the IEP Resource Center. And I just want to go over some logistics before we get started today. So we are currently using Zoom webinar, which means that all cameras and microphones are disabled for participants. So no need to worry if your camera's on or if we can see you. The only people who are seen on camera today are those who are presenting today. So no need to worry about that. If you do want to comment and share throughout the session today, please do so via the chat feature or the Q&A. The chat feature has a couple of options where you can select to just have the host and panelist view the chat that you're sending, or everyone. So make sure that it's set for everyone if you would like everyone to see that comment. In addition, if you prefer closed captioning for a session, you're able to activate those closed captions by clicking on the bottom toolbar and hitting the closed captioning button. If you have any additional questions for us via technical information, Jolly says you can't hear me. Are other people able to hear me at this time? Yes. All right, Jolly, turn up your volume because I think other people are able to hear me. So closed captioning is available for you if you would like throughout this session. Just enable that in the bottom toolbar. If you have any other technical difficulties today, I will put my email address and my cell phone number in the chat. Feel free to text or email me and we'll get you set up in whatever you need. Again, if you want to comment, chat, Q&A is the best way to do that. And I'm going to pass it over to Tracy to kick off the evening. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you. Welcome to the third annual New Educator Institute. We are excited to embark on a year-long community of practice with you. Thank you for your commitment to networking and learning from some of the best. We can do the next slide. You are now part of Indiana CEC family, and your executive board is here to serve you and to help you with your careers. Let me introduce them to you. President, Dr. Tara Reinhardt, President-elect myself, Tracy Henn, past President Amy Hobbs, Treasurer Katie Thompson, Secretary Todd Hawks, Representative Assembly Member Lindsay Brander, membership Dr. John Summers, Conference Awards, Dr. Cheryl Bremer, Student Chapter Advisor, Teresa Nipson-Meyer, CAN Representative Amber Wolf, and PD Committee Lead, Jolly Purcell. I am now happy to introduce Dr. Nancy Holsapple, Indiana State Director of Special Education.
Thank you, Tracy. And welcome to the Indiana Council for Exceptional Children 2021 New Educator Institute. I am Dr. Nancy Holsapple, Director of Special Education at the Indiana Department of Education. It is a great honor to partner alongside the Indiana Council for Exceptional Children to accomplish our shared mission of advancing the success of children with exceptionalities. Excuse me. This is done through advocacy, standards, and professional development. We envision a world where educators are trusted and respected professionals in their communities. All educators have a sense of shared responsibility and work collaboratively to educate all learners. All stakeholders, including students, families, teachers, and community members, are empowered, supported, and active participants as full partners in education. All educators are knowledgeable and skilled to support diverse learners so that all students can pursue their full potential. All students benefit from inclusive cultures in schools and communities, and public policy enables educators with all the necessary support to focus on their practice. As like-minded individuals, our core values include visionary thinking that is demonstrated by forward-looking and courageous decision-making, dedicated to excellence and influence in an evolving environment, integrity shown by ethical, responsible behavior, transparency, and accountability, and inclusiveness with a commitment to diversify, caring, and respect for the dignity and worth of all individuals. Our partnership has created an innovative experience for our newly licensed special educators in Indiana. The Indiana Department of Ed has welcomed these new educators with support and resources that effectively impact their first years in the classroom, ultimately improving outcomes for students with exceptionalities. These resources include evidence-based practices combined with a statewide and national peer network from the Council for Exceptional Children, Indiana Council for Exceptional Children, the Indiana Department of Education, and the Indiana IEP Resource Center. Because of this partnership, we provided internationally renowned researchers and educators during our new Educator Institute as one of only 2 states currently providing this resource. We are quite proud to support this critical work and our educators in the state of Indiana. Welcome and thank you.
We'll now watch the video from Every Child Deserves a Champion.
I have spent my entire life either at the schoolhouse, on the way to the schoolhouse, or talking about what happens in the schoolhouse. Both my parents were educators. My maternal grandparents were educators. And for the past 40 years, I've done the same thing. And so needless to say, over those years, I've had a chance to look at education reform from a lot of perspectives. Some of those reforms have been good, some of them have been not so good. And we know why kids drop out. We know why kids don't learn. It's either poverty, low attendance, negative peer influences. We know why. But one of the things that we never discuss, or we rarely discuss, is the value and importance of human connection. Relationships. James Comer says that no significant learning can occur without a significant relationship. George Washington Carver says all learning is understanding relationships. Everyone in this room has been affected by a teacher or an adult. For years, I have watched people teach. I have looked at the best and I've looked at some of the worst. A colleague said to me one time, they don't pay me to like the kids. They pay me to teach a lesson. The kids should learn it. I should teach it. They should learn it. Case closed. Well, I said to her, you know, kids don't learn from people they don't like. She said that. I said to her, well, your year is going to be long and arduous, dear. Needless to say, it was. Some people think that you can either have it in you to build a relationship or you don't. I think Stephen Covey had the right idea. He said you ought to just throw in a few simple things, like seeking first to understand as opposed to being understood. Simple things like apologizing. You ever thought about that? Tell a kid you're sorry, they're in shock. I taught a lesson once on ratios. I'm not real good with math, but I was working on it. And I got back and looked at that teacher edition. I taught the whole lesson wrong. So I came back to class the next day and I said, look, guys, I need to apologize. I taught the whole lesson wrong. I'm so sorry. They said, that's okay, Miss Pearson. You were so excited. We just let you go. I have had classes that were so low, so academically deficient that I cried. I wondered, how am I going to take this group in 9 months from where they are to where they need to be? And it was difficult. It was awfully hard. How do I raise the self-esteem of a child and his academic achievement at the same time? One year I came up with a bright idea. I told all my students, you were chosen to be in my class. Because I am the best teacher and you are the best students, they put us all together so we could show everybody else how to do it. One of the students said, really? I said, really? We have to show the other classes how to do it. So when we walk down the hall, people will notice us. So you can't make noise, you just have to strut. And I gave him a saying to say, I am somebody. I was somebody when I came. I'll be a better somebody when I leave. I am powerful and I am strong. I deserve the education that I get here. I have things to do, people to impress, and places to go. And they said, yeah. You say it long enough, it starts to be a part of you. And so, I gave a quiz, 20 questions. Student missed 18. I put a +2 on this paper and a big smiley face. He said, Miss Pearson, is this an F? I said, yes. He said, then why'd you put a smiley face? I said, because you on the roll. You got 2 right, you didn't miss them all. I said, and when we review this, won't you do better? He said, yes, ma'am, I can do better. You see, -18 sucks all the life out of you. +2 said, I ain't all bad. For years, I watched my mother take the time at recess to review, go on home visits in the afternoon, buy combs and brushes and peanut butter and crackers to put in her desk drawer for kids that needed to eat, and a washcloth and some soap for the kids who didn't smell so good. See, it's hard to teach kids who stink. And kids can be cruel. And so she kept those things in her desk, and years later, after she retired, I watched some of those same kids come through and say to her, you know, Miss Walker, you made a difference in my life. You made it work for me. You made me feel like I was somebody when I knew at the bottom I wasn't. And I want you to just see what I've become. And when my mama died 2 years ago at 92, there were so many former students at her funeral. It brought tears to my eyes, not because she was gone, but because she left a legacy of relationships that could never disappear. Can we stand to have more relationships? Absolutely. Will you like all your children? Of course not. And you know your toughest kids are never absent. Never. You won't like them all, and the tough ones show up for a reason. It's the connection, it's the relationships. And while you won't like them all, the key is they can never, ever know it. So teachers become great actors and great actresses, and we come to work when we don't feel like it, and we listen to policy that doesn't make sense, and we teach anyway. We teach anyway because that's what we do. Teaching and learning should bring joy. How powerful would our world be if we had kids who were not afraid to take risks, who were not afraid to think, and who had a champion? Every child deserves a champion, an adult who will never give up on them, who understands the power of connection and insists that they become the best that they can possibly be. Is this job tough? You betcha. Oh God, you betcha. But it is not impossible. We can do this. We're educators. We're born to make a difference. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That is probably one of the best uplifting responses and videos that you can watch. And I'm tempted to start listening to it on my way to work. I have a 45-minute drive, so that would be a great way to get started for the day. So we're going to have a little bit of interactive time right now. So why did you make special education your career? And what prompted you to begin this journey? Because it will be a journey. And you will learn so much. And as she said, there's going to be good days and bad days and hard days, but I'm sure that you are more than capable. So if you can enter your responses on the Padlet and take a couple minutes to do that, then we will get back together. If you're having difficulty logging into the Padlet, we did put the link in the chat. If you have not used Padlet before, if you click on the plus down in the right-hand corner, you'll be able to add your comments. So why did you make special education your career? And what prompted you to begin this journey? While we're waiting, I think I will answer the first question. So why did I make special education my career? I started, school right after high school, college, and then I took some time off to raise my kids. And I went back starting to sub, and I realized that I had a heart for those kids that struggled the most. And a bucket list was to finish my degree. And 6 years later, here I am as a special education teacher, and I love every minute. There are some days that are more difficult than others, but each day is a new day and brings about new types of joys. So hopefully we're able to add some comments. I know right now there's about 280 of you that signed up for this series. So it looks like we have 2. Wanted to make a difference to all the students, especially those who need extra help. Able to work as a senior in an elementary classroom and fell in love with it, fell in love with teaching. I made special education my career because I love seeing students grow and learn. My mentor teacher was a special ed teacher, so I saw firsthand the struggles and successes. I was drawn. That's fantastic. I worked in life skills room in my high school and fell in love with the work, even as a student. I worked in home health and then respite. Wanted to do more on the educational side. I think I know who that one is, Anonymous. So you will find that the special ed community, even though the state is, large, the special ed community is a little bit small, and it's great to have those connections to be able to reach out to when you are struggling and you need some different ideas to help teach your kids. We're going to take just a couple more minutes to let you continue to add your comments to that. And then this will be available, I believe, after, so you can continue to do that. And it also will be on the recording. I have a lot of connections to advocacy for people with disabilities. I volunteered in special education classrooms during the pandemic and instantly knew I needed to be there full time. Thank you for doing that. Volunteering during the pandemic, I'm sure, was not an easy decision for you, and we appreciate that. I love the law and the different types of learners and teaching with so many different people. Loving the law, that says a lot right there because, special education, there's a lot of things to know, and it takes time. So one of those things you have to give yourself time. All right, I think we will move on just so that we're cognizant of our time for the presentation that we have starting at 7. So your passion is important for your drive. Remember that you will get through this first year. You have us, Indiana CEC. to reach out to if you have questions or concerns or you need help with best practices. And it's going to help to empower you for your future. Right now we have Kevin Jacobs with us, who is from the Indiana Council for Exceptional Children headquarters. And I think I just messed up the whole entire title of that. So I apologize because my slides went away, which is technology is, good and bad at times. But Kevin is here. We appreciate you taking the time to meet with us tonight, Kevin. I'm going to hand it over to you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Tracy. And I actually work for our CEC National. So I work here in Arlington, and I also work to support our units and divisions all over the country. And having a very close friend of mine with autism and Asperger's syndrome, another friend with Asperger's syndrome, it's important for me to be able to support all of you. And that's something I absolutely love doing in my role. So I'm very excited to be here, and we're very excited to support you. Could I have the next slide, please? So tonight we're going to talk about CEC membership and you. I personally love this photo. It's actually the one that I choose for almost everything that we do. It's just my favorite photo in the world. Judy gets on to me, my boss, Judy gets on to me for this a lot. So may I have the next slide, please? So CEC is your professional home, and whether you're a student, teacher, special educator, early career professional, whether you're about to retire and so on and so forth, we have resources and a membership that fits you where you are in your career. One of the things that we pride ourselves on at CEC is the ability to grow with you throughout your career, all the way from college to retirement. And so we definitely have a place for you here and a category that fits your needs for everyone. Next slide, please. So we also offer a wealth of professional development that's trusted and proven. You also get discounts on books, CEC products, and a discount on our annual convention and expo. This year, we're going to be offering our convention and expo in Orlando, Florida, and we're also going to be offering it virtually as well. So we're very excited to be offering it in 2 different formats. We also offer a selection of free members-only pre-recorded and live webinars through the CEC Learning Library. Evidence-based professional development opportunities from leading experts in the field, and access to our award-winning journals, Teaching Exceptional Children and Exceptional Children. We also offer a few other benefits that can help you maintain your professional development hours in the future. So be sure to stop by and take advantage of that when you can. Next slide, please. So connections, colleagues, and community. And so part of what we love about what we do is that we drive our members a lot to connect with each other. We find that you can make the most out of your membership and the most out of your career when you can connect with other colleagues that are like you, because let's be real, there have been times that every one of us has walked into a meeting, and I personally get a little terrified sometimes to ask a question. So that's one reason we love connecting our members with each other. So that way you have a foundation and a support group. And we do this through our online community, CEC community, through our all-member forum. There are also other communities within there based on your special interest divisions and other selections. So be sure to check that out when you get a moment and introduce yourself, ask a question, really dig in and make the most out of that. And that's going to be a great benefit for you. You'll also get complimentary automatic membership in the local unit. So CEC Indiana, you will have automatic membership in that. They're pretty active. So I think you're going to find a great wealth of opportunities to get involved with them. So definitely make sure you're connecting with Tara and her team. And you also have the option to join special interest divisions. That is an additional investment, but we have 18 of them, and they're all specialty based. All of our divisions are based around, for example, we have one that's called the Division of Autism. We also have another one that's based on Teacher Education Division and one for administrators. So we really do have a lot for everyone. And so make sure you check out that as well. Next slide, please. We also offer a few additional services for your practice. You get member access to professional liability insurance products from our partners at Forrest T. Jones and Company. We also offer regular policy updates and access to advocacy opportunities. And you can do a lot of this through Teaching Exceptional Children and Exceptional Children, our research to practice journals, as well as receiving our weekly newsletter, Special Education Today. It comes out each Friday and has a wealth of information about the changes you're going to be experiencing in the special education sector. Next slide, please. So that's the end of what I have for you. As well, you'll be engaged throughout the year. You'll see a lot of emails from me about new opportunities, benefits, ways to get engaged and involved. So make sure to bookmark me and make sure to put exceptionalchildren.org in your list of safe senders so we can make sure to deliver all this content to you quickly and timely. What you see on the screen here, the phone number, the website, and the email address are how you can contact us at CEC. We have a great member services team, which I'm part of. And we work Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. We are available by email at any time. So make sure to stop by and just drop a note, get engaged, and we're very happy you're here and we're very excited to support you. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you, Kevin. We appreciate the partnership we have with you. We do have different ways that you can get engaged with Indiana CEC. There's different volunteer opportunities. We have a website. We have social media that we need help with, executive board opportunities. And it just helps you to meet different people from around the state, which will just make you a better educator. Next slide. We have partnered for this event with the Indiana IEP Resource Center. So a huge shout out to the entire team and for Marcy for being just a complete rock star and putting this together for us tonight and hosting it for us. And Marcy, I'm going to turn it over to you to introduce our speaker for tonight.
Sure. So thank you, Tracy. I appreciate it. You will see on the screen right now the Indiana IEP Resource Center team. We provide training, technical assistance, and resource dissemination across the state. If there's ever anything that you just need or have questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We would be happy to assist in any way that we can. And tonight, I would like to welcome Dr. Adam Saenz, and he is hosting a session really on educator well-being. We know that you all need to take care of yourselves before you can take care of your students, and that's so important. So we want to make sure that Adam gives you information and knowledge for you to be able to do that. In addition to his session tonight, we will also have a book study following this on Adam's book, The EQ Intervention. So if you haven't signed up for that, you still have the opportunity to do so, to where we can mail you the book and get you the information before next week's session. So please do that if you haven't done that at this time. In addition to Adam's session, we have Terrell Berry, who comes to us from Panorama Education. He used to work for the Indiana Department of Education and really focuses on culture responsive practices and school-wide equity. So that's the second topic that will take place in November. And the third topic that we have is Paula Kluth, who is going to present on really looking at inclusive practices and universal design for learning and how to make your instruction within the classroom meet the needs of all of the learners that you're serving. So we have a wonderful lineup for you this year with the New Educators Institute, and we just want to make sure that you're taking advantage of all these. So each presenter also has a book study aligned, whether it be an active book study where you're meeting, or Paula has an independent book study. So please, if you are able, feel free to join. If you have to miss one session every now and again, that's okay. We completely understand. We'll have recordings available for you, but please go ahead and register so that you get the information and you know what the Zoom links are and how to access each of these sessions. So we are excited to get started tonight, and we are going to pass it over to Dr. Saenz.
All right, that's my cue. Thanks so much. I appreciate that introduction, Marcy. It's great to be with you tonight. I am coming to you from our studio in College Station, Texas, home of Texas A&M University, and it's great to be with you. So let me do this before we jump in. I'm going to give you the 10-cent tour of the studio, because people, you know, when I present, they kind of, it's not the typical setup. So let me show you where I'm at here. So this is the deal. This is the jam right here. And this is where all the magic happens. And, you know, we built this studio over a year ago in March of 2020. People were talking about this thing called the pandemic. You know, it wasn't the pandemic, it was COVID. I don't even think it was COVID. Maybe it was the coronavirus. I don't know, but it was in Italy and none of us were worried about it. And the plan last year was we're going to take a long spring break. We're going to take 2 weeks. That's what we were saying in Texas. We're going to take 2 weeks of spring break. We're going to let this thing blow over. And then when everything's safe, we're going to come back to school. And that didn't happen. So, you know how that story played out. We ended up staying home for the rest of the school year. And then all of last year was sort of hybrid and virtual and all kinds of stuff. So we built the studio because we started doing a lot of professional development that we couldn't be on site with schools. And so I said, man, if we're going to do professional development virtually, we need to build a studio and make it professional. So that's why I'm coming to you from a studio here. This is what we built and how we do it. So I want to show you one other thing in the studio that you'll need to know about because you'll hear sounds along the way. And let me explain what I mean by that. When I started doing virtual workshops, over a year ago, I guess it was in April or May of 2020, what I figured out very early on is that cameras don't laugh back. So when I'm presenting anywhere and I tell a joke, even if it's a bad joke, which most of mine are, 20% of the crowd is going to give me like a sympathy laugh, like, haha, that's really funny. It's really not, but poor thing, bless his heart. Well, what I learned when I present virtually is that cameras don't laugh back, even at the good stuff, and it just really threw me off, talking to a camera and not getting good feedback. So, so let me show you what I have here. This machine, it's like a mixer. When I do my podcast, we run sound through this, but these buttons right here, man, they absolutely trigger my ADHD. And this is the technology that supports me. So I'll explain what I mean. I'm going to tell a bad joke and then I'll show you how this works. So here's the bad joke. It's a psychology joke. How many narcissists does it take to change a light bulb? That's the bad joke. How many narcissists does it take to change a light bulb? Answer. It only takes one. The narcissist holds onto the light bulb and expects the world to revolve around him. Now watch. See, I got the laugh track. So this is going to be like an episode of Seinfeld, you get your own little sitcom. And the good news, there's no more jokes. So round of applause, you don't have to listen to my dad jokes. So that's it. This is the studio. And this is kind of how I roll in the studio. So great to be with you. Let me tell you what you can expect for the next hour and a half ish. We're going to do a little bit of interactive stuff early on. First 30 minutes, really, I want to lay out for you why I do what I do. I'm a psychologist and I've been in the field for 25 years. Self-care and well-being is a part of what I do. I do some other things, emotional intelligence and SEL. We'll get into that the latter half of this session, but I want to start off with why I do all of that stuff, and so I'll get into that in a little bit, and then we'll take a little bit of break. We'll call it a bio break. I love that phrase. That's another pandemic phrase. I'd never heard the phrase bio break until we started doing webinars. We're going to take a 5-minute bio break at 7:30. I'm in Central Time, so that'll be 6:30 my time. Come back, and then when we come back, I've got a guest with me in the studio. One of my colleagues, Ashley Jolly. She is a lecturer at Texas A&M, former teacher, and now teaches teachers. In undergraduate students in education, and she's going to talk a little bit about her insights for early career teachers. And then I'm going to jump into the self-care piece of it. So that's what the next 90 minutes are going to look like. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to throw it over to the PowerPoint, and we are going to do a little bit of interaction here. I'm going to show you some pictures. So check these out. Those pictures there, a bunch of pictures. What I want you to do is you are going to pick out 3 pictures. 3 pictures. And if you've got like a notepad or something to write on, or maybe you can go to the chat, you're going to pick 3 pictures. And here's what I want you to think of. Which picture, number 1, describes your journey since this time last year? So when you think about where you were in September of 2020, right? What picture describes what the last 12 months have been like for you? Number 2, I want you to pick a picture that describes where you are today. Like right now, this moment, where are you today? And then number 3, I want you to pick a picture that describes where you want to be next summer. At the end of the year, what do you want to be true of you? So I'm going to give you here, I'm going to play the Jeopardy music to inspire thought. And I just want you to think about that. Which picture describes where you were, where you are, and where you want to be? And if you have pictures, you can go to the chat and type in the chat. Let me know. Okay. So you've had a chance to look at those pictures. I'm going to go first, and I'm going to describe where I've been, and then check this out. I'm going to go to this camera here. What I'm going to do is, so have your phone right. You're going to need your cell phone with you, because I'm going to describe which pictures describe my journey, and where I'm at and where I want to be. And then I'm going to let one of you call in. We're going to do a call in. This is like, so I'm old enough to remember this thing. You've probably never even heard of it, but it's called AM radio. So when I was a kid, man, they did this thing on AM radio, like when a concert was coming to town, let's say the Rolling Stones or Led Zeppelin or whatever. You could call into the radio station, and if you were the first caller, you won tickets to the concert. That's how it used to work, back when we rode horses to school. So we're going to do that. We're going to relive that magic. I'm going to have somebody call in, and you're going to score a Starbucks gift card and a free copy of my book, The Power of a Teacher. I'm going to show you the number in a minute. The first caller to call in, and you're going to share with the group over the phone, what are your 3 pictures? Okay. I'll show you the number in a minute, but let's get back to the PowerPoint here. Okay. So let me show you my 3 pictures. Where I was last year was this tunnel of information, this paper. I just felt like I was getting sucked into information. I was trying to figure out, like, man, what am I doing? What's going on here? What are we doing? So much information, so much emotion, so much thought, so much confusion. It just felt like I was just getting sucked into this maelstrom of junk. So that's what the last year has been like for me. Where I'm at now is I'm the cat right now. When I look at that cat, he looks 2 things to me. He looks angry and he looks focused. And so I'm a little bit angry about what last year has looked like, because if I could be very frank with you, it kind of sucked. So I'm angry, but I'm focused, because I realize now that more than ever, we as adults and the students that we're working with, we need SEL. We need to know ourselves. We need self-care. We need to understand our inner worlds more than we ever have. And I'm just focused on loving and serving people and giving them the tools they need to be sustainable through this. So that's where I'm at today. Where I want to be in the future, like next summer, I want to be the guy skateboarding here. So, if you look at that skateboarder, again, 100 years ago, back when we had AM radio and we called in for tickets, I used to skate a lot. And what I know, looking at that picture, this guy doing this little aerial here off that lip, is that you don't start out there. You start off getting on a skateboard and then trying to get a little speed and go a little ways and trying not to fall off. And then you get that down, and then you drop into a pool and you figure out how to skate in a pool. And then you figure out how to do a ramp. And eventually you put all of those skills together and you can do a really sweet aerial like this guy's doing right here, and just make it look easy because you've done it so much. And that's what I want to be next summer. I want to be doing this really, really well. Not because it's easy, but because I've just done it so much and I got really, really good at it. And what's this I'm talking about? Well, I mean, webinars and teaching online and, knowing SEL and practicing SEL and all that. And just, man, I think if I can do it through a pandemic, then I can do it anytime, anyway. So that's me. Those are my 3 pictures, where I've been this last year, where I am today, and where I want to be in the future. Now you have a chance to call in, first caller to call in, and you tell me, I'm going to put the slide back up with the pictures. You call in and tell me where you have been. So here we go. Drum roll, right? Here's the number to dial. Ladies and gentlemen, 979-571-4606. Let's see if we can get somebody to call in. Be bold, be strong, call in. Starbucks is on the line in a free book. Call in and let me know which pictures. Oh, we got a call coming in. Let's see who this is. Hello, this is Adam. Who is this?
This is Kerry Cummins.
Oh, round of applause for you, my friend. Good job. Congratulations. You're the first caller. So what's your role there, my friend?
Pardon me?
What is your role? What do you do?
I'm a special education teacher.
Ah, good deal. So share with the group your pictures. Which one describes where you were, where you are, and where you want to go? And then one quick question, if you could lower the volume on your computer.
Okay, let me do that real quick.
Yeah, that'll cut out the feedback.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a cool effect, though.
Yeah, all right. If you're listening to rock music.
Yeah,
Okay, that helpful?
that's awesome. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, the picture that describes me at my journey last year was the cat.
Yeah.
I was angry. I was
Mhm.
confused. I was just bored, you
Yeah.
know, and I had been retired as a teacher for 9 years.
Hmm.
And so I just went back this year, decided to go back in the classroom this year.
Wow.
Okay, and put the pictures back up for just a second.
Yeah, you
here.
bet.
Yeah, and the where I am today is that guy with his hands in his face.
Okay.
Like, yeah, I mean, I'm overwhelmed because I'm
Mm.
having to learn everything new.
Yeah.
Because when I was teaching, we didn't do computers,
Oh,
you
gosh.
know,
Uh-huh.
and so that's a little bit difficult.
Yeah.
And then the picture that describes me where I want to be at the end of the year is the guy playing the guitar.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
Good deal.
That's happy time for me.
Yeah. So you and Jimmy Buffett just on the beach living
Yeah.
life, huh?
Right, Margaritaville.
That's awesome, man. Good deal.
Yeah.
Well, I sure do
Okay.
appreciate you. Thank you so much for what you're doing. Here's what I want you to do then, Mr. First Caller. Congratulations, you score the prize. I put my email address down there in the chat. It's adam@adamscience.com. So if you could email me and just say, hey, Adam, it was great chatting with you tonight. Here's my mailing address, and we will get in the mail to you
Mhm.
a $25 Starbucks gift card, a free copy of my book, The Power of a Teacher, combined retail value, $25.
Okay, well, thank you so very much.
Awesome, man.
Appreciate it.
Congratulations, my friend. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. So that's how it goes. See, at least somebody is glad they showed up tonight. Starbucks and a book. So that's it. And the reason I wanted to do this exercise with you is to establish context. You know, I mean, I want us to be thinking about, like, where have we been? Where are we? Where do we want to go? Because that reinforces, like, oh gosh, we're on a journey. And if we're not taking care of ourselves, we're not going to make it. We're not going to make it. So understanding where we are, where we've been, where we are, and where we're headed is essential, because it grounds us. It keeps us focused. So that's that. Awesome. Good job. Oh, let me get to the PowerPoint here. Hang on one sec. Now let's move forward. I am going to share with you a couple of kids. I'm going to talk about a couple of kids here real quick, because in these next 15 minutes, to kind of give you a sense of not what I do. What I do is this: I'm a psychologist, you know, and I teach on self-care and emotional intelligence, things like that. But why do I do that? You know, I mean, I could do a lot of things, and I do a lot of things as a psychologist. I work at the medical school at Texas A&M. I have an outpatient clinic. I see patients, you know, but the sprinkles on my cupcake is always working with educators. And I just want to share why, because I think it'll be a compelling reason for you. Let me get back to the PowerPoint. Look at this kid. I'm going to show you these two kids here. The boy on the left is a 6th grader. His name is Lou, and the girl on the right is a 4th grader. Her name is Maya. Let me tell you about Lou. He's a Latino male. He comes from a low socioeconomic home. He's got a single, uninvolved parent. He's truant. He's got problems with the law. He's got mental illness, and he's using street drugs to self-medicate. Let me tell you something, my friends. This young man right here represents the hardest work you will do in education. Statistically speaking, that kid right there is the hardest kid you will have, because any one of these demographic variables is a strike against a student, educationally speaking. Just being Latino means you're less likely to achieve. Coming from a low socioeconomic home means you're less likely to achieve academically. Having a single uninvolved parent, again, that's another strike. But when you load all of this into one kid, it's safe to say that this kid was not born into a life of privilege. And he's going to show up into your classroom, right, on his IEP, and your job is to grow that student. And man, it's no small task. It's no small task. And, you know, a lot of times this kid's not going to respond to consequences. He doesn't care about reinforcers. He doesn't care about any of that. And it can leave us as adults who are wanting to help this student feeling overwhelmed, feeling despairing, feeling incompetent, a lot of uncomfortable feelings. And, you know, this student probably maybe reminds you of some students that you work with. Well, this kid's not in sixth grade anymore. Of all things, he grew up and became a licensed psychologist, and that's what he looks like today. Here, you know what? I'm going to give myself I'm going to give myself a round of applause because I can do that. I can self-validate in this format, which I like. You know, I can laugh at my own jokes and I can give myself applause. It's a win-win. Yeah, I was that kid. And I just want to share my story with you to encourage you. You know, you're in special education, which means at some level you're dealing with a dynamic that the general education faculty is not. You know, you're dealing with a level of stress that others are not. And I get that. But I just want you to be encouraged because I want you to understand that my life is living proof that what you do matters. Probably, well, I know for sure the second most challenging year in my life was sixth grade when that picture was taken. There was so much going on. You know, one thing I remember early on, it was like October of that school year. Two of my friends went to go buy some drugs and there was a shootout and my friends were murdered. And this was in a time where you didn't have grief counselors. You didn't talk about stuff like that, you know? And I remember the very next day after I found out they were murdered, I was back on my campus, you know, just getting into trouble. And I always say, you know, all I did was go to the office every day. That was if I'd had an IEP, goal one on my IEP would have been, Lou will go to the office. You know, I mean, that's all I did was go to the office. And so, you know, I go back to school the next day after my friends were murdered and I was getting in trouble and, you know, just being that kid, just making people's life hell, essentially. The second thing that happened that was related to the first thing when I was in sixth grade is that a group of young men from a rival gang broke into my home and they restrained me and they sexually assaulted my cousin. Just traumatic. But for a number of reasons, I couldn't talk about it. But the very next day, there I was, you know, back on my campus, to the office, from the office. Well, the third thing that happened when I was in sixth grade is that I was arrested for possession. And man, I'll never forget the look on my mom's face when she came into juvenile to pick me up. And I knew, I could tell by the look in her eyes that she was done with me that time. I just knew she was just so angry. And the first words out of her mouth were this: Mijito, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? And I remember thinking, like, what a stupid question to ask me. What am I doing here? I know who I am. You know, I'm Lou Sines. It's my job to make your life hell. I'm never going to learn. I can't make it through a single day. I mean, these are messages that I got growing up over and over and over. It's like, I know who I am. Like, where else would I be? Well, what happened was, you know, Child Protective Services was never involved with my family. But my mom could read the writing on the wall. She knew I had an older brother in high school that was about to drop out and things didn't look good for me. So she voluntarily relinquished parental rights. And I went from living down in South Texas, very southern tip of Texas, mostly Latino and Spanish speaking, to what was then this tiny rice farming town outside of Houston called Katy, Texas. And it was culture shock for me. You know, I'd never seen so many pickup trucks in my life. And I didn't fit in, but, you know, I did pretty well. The family that I lived with there, they loved me well. And I had some great teachers. But by my senior year, my depression kicked back in because the family that I lived with, they said, listen, we love you and we care about you, but you need to understand when you turn 18 and you graduate, you're on your own. It's up to you. And I was terrified. I was just terrified because I knew that when I left all of that structure, I was done. I knew that I had demons just waiting to get their claws in me. Well, I graduated from Katy High School and I ended up in San Antonio. I was working as a dishwasher and that was the toughest year of my life. Sixth grade was the second toughest year, but that year when I was 18, 19, that was the toughest year of my life. And I remember I was working as a dishwasher. I was living in the shack behind a house. It was just a tiny little room with a toilet and a shower. And I didn't own much. I had a sleeping bag, a pillow, a suitcase with some clothes and a box of journals. And I remember coming home from work one morning, really, really early in the morning. It was like 3 a.m. I'd closed the restaurant and I was really depressed and really overwhelmed. And I just thought, I need to write. I need to write in my journal. And I remember getting home from work that morning at 3 a.m. And I pulled out this journal right here, this exact journal. I still have all these years later. And when I pulled out the journal, down in my journal box, I saw these pieces of paper and I didn't know what it was. And I was blown away at what I found deep in my journal box. Let me show you this real quick. Check this out. Let that focus in for a minute. It's you see it's addressed to Dear Lou. And look at the date on that, May 23rd, 1985. That was my last day of high school. And it was signed down at the bottom by Joe Ella Exley, and that was my English teacher. And then the second letter that I pulled out, again, that I'd completely forgotten about in red ink, is addressed to Lou. And then you'll see on the last page here, it was signed by Miss McRoberts. And I was blown away. I had completely forgotten about these two letters. But then as I read them, I remembered like, oh yeah, these were letters that my two teachers gave me my senior year, literally on the last day of high school. As I was walking out of their classroom, they handed me these letters and said, here, read this when you get a chance. And I never read it. I just stuck it in my backpack, and evidently it ended up in my journal box, you know? And so for the first time, I read these letters in this darkest hour, you know, and this is part of what one of those letters said. Let's get to the PowerPoint here. Miss Exley wrote this: you're extremely talented and intelligent, but most importantly, you have a good heart. I know you will use your talents to help your fellow man, and that's the most satisfying life a person can have. And it said some other things, but that's really what jumped out. And it was signed by Joe Ella Exley. And then that letter in red ink, this is part of what it said. Don't quit writing, especially in your journal. Someday it may be the basis for your book. You have insight, sensitivity, intelligence, maturity. Beyond your tender years, keep being you. You're a special person. And again, it said some other things, but that's what jumped out. And those words just destroyed me, you know, because I remember thinking like, I know who I am. You know, I'm a 19-year-old version of that sixth grade kid that's never going to make it through a single day, whose job it is to make your life hell, who's never going to learn. You know, I'm working as a dishwasher. I've got no family. I've got no money. I've got no hope. I've got no future. But I do have symptoms of depression. I do have panic attacks. I do have a fear of being in public. I definitely have those things. I know who I am. But here were these two women for whom I had tremendous respect that were disagreeing with me. And because of who they were and the way they lived their life in front of us, not just as teachers, but as human beings, you know, the way they connected with us, I couldn't blow them off because I knew they wouldn't have written that if they didn't absolutely believe it. And so I struggle with it back and forth. Who's right about me? I think I know who I am, but here are these two teachers that are saying something different. So finally I said, you know what, this is ridiculous. I'm going to make a test that I know I'm going to fail. And when I fail this test, that's all the proof that I need to go back to my miserable life. Here's the test. I'm going to try to get into college. I have no idea how you do that. Brown kids where I grew up didn't go to college. I'm not smart enough. I don't have any money. I'm never going to make it. But let me just try to get into college and fail. And then in my own heart, I could just say, Miss McRoberts, Miss Exley, that was really sweet, but you were wrong. So I remember getting on a bus after work one day, taking a bus to UTSA, the University of Texas at San Antonio, stepped off the bus. My very first experience on a college campus was a panic attack. My thoughts were racing. You don't belong here. You're out of your league. You're not college material. You're not smart enough. You're not good enough. You don't have enough money. You'll never make it. You're not like the rest of these kids. And I just went up to the first guy I saw with a backpack. I said, are you a student? He said, yep. And I said, man, how do you get in? How do you even do this? Well, he pointed me to the administration building or wherever it was and spent the afternoon, you know, filling out paperwork. And I did everything. Great, I'm done. Got on the bus, went back to work. Wasn't thinking anything of it. Well, that was probably in April, you know, almost a year to the day that I graduated high school. Well, by July, I got a letter in the mail at work. The manager came in and says, you have a letter here. And I looked at it and it said UTSA, you know, and then I remembered, oh yeah, I applied for college. I forgot about that. And then I started thinking, oh, this is the flush letter. You know, this is the letter where you open it up and it says, we sincerely regret to inform you, right? So I opened it up and it said, congratulations, you've been admitted. Couldn't believe it, you know. And the first course I had to take that fall, I just took one course. It was a remedial, like an introduction to English. And I said, man, thank God, because if I have any hope of passing a college course, this is it. And so I took that course and I passed it, you know, at the end of the semester. I couldn't believe it, but I passed it. And for the first time in my life, I gave myself permission to not to believe Miss McRoberts and Miss Exley, but just to crack the door open to the idea that maybe they could see something in me. Maybe they were right and I was wrong. So I took another course that spring and I passed it. And I just kept going back a little at a time, every semester thinking like, no, really, this is when I fail out. Like I'm a sophomore now, I'm going to fail out. I'm a junior now, I'm going to fail out. Well, just before I turned 27 years old, I graduated with my undergraduate degree in English. I mean, never thought I was going to get a degree, never thought I was college material. But I did it, you know, and for the first time in my life, I just gave myself permission to believe Miss McRoberts and Miss Exley, to say, you know what, they could see something in you that you couldn't see in yourself. And I said, I'm going to keep going. And so I went back and I got my master's, I got my PhD, I trained at Harvard, I got a postdoc at Brown, and then ended up getting a second doctorate degree in a ministry degree, doctorate of ministry and pastoral counseling. And it's been wonderful. And I'm just here to tell you that I know I never would have stepped out to be anything more than that mistaken version of who I thought I was, had educators not spoken truth in my life, you know, men and women, just like you, that made a difference in me, that just gave me courage to believe for a different path for myself. So just be encouraged, you know, and know, again, that as difficult as this work is, and it is, my life is living proof that what you do matters. There are young men and women that you're working with now, and 20 years from now, they're going to sit down for coffee or a beer, and they're going to ask who the difference makers were in their lives when they connect with each other and they start reflecting on their lives. And I'll tell you what, man, your names are going to come up. You are going to be the people that they cite as the difference makers for them. So just know that what you do absolutely matters. And my life is living proof of it. Check that out. If you ever go to Katy ISD, that's where I went to high school, you'll find that building, and that's Joella Exley Elementary. If you ever happen to be driving down Franz Road in Katy, Texas, you're going to see that building, and that's Polly McRoberts Elementary. Just amazing, amazing women. Give me about 5 more minutes. I'm going to talk about the second young lady, and then we'll take a little break. That was Maya Chavez. And, you know, when I look at that picture of Maya, her smile does not convince me. And when I think about who this girl was when that picture was taken, I think, you know, what does this kid have to smile about? She had been in the custody of protective services for 2 years already in her young life. She had experienced things that no human being should ever have to experience, let alone a little girl. And we sit her down in front of a camera and tell her to say cheese. I mean, what's there to smile about? Well, what happens with kids that grow up in chaotic families, you know, whether protective services is involved or not, is that they develop a base layer of emotion. And that first emotion for them is fear. It's anxiety. They live in fight or flight. Because they never know what to expect, you know, from moment to moment at home, they never know what to expect. And their nervous system, their sympathetic nervous system is always activated. They always live in fight or flight. And it's a miserable, and you can't learn when your brain is in fight or flight. When you're afraid, it's real hard to focus and learn. Well, what happens then, statistically speaking, if a child hasn't been adopted by the time they're 10, 11, 12 years old, the likelihood that they will ever be adopted drops dramatically. And by then they're in junior high, you know, middle school and high school. And they start feeling hopeless. They start feeling discouraged. They realize the adoption ship sailed and I wasn't on it. And then they start acting out, not just where it's safe, which is in schools, they start acting out where it's not safe, out in the streets. So you have a history of interaction with the legal system. You've got ankle monitors, probation officers, and all. It's just a mess. And if you ever have a family that's even thinking about adopting a child like this, the state worker will sit that family down in front of a table and pull out just stacks and stacks of paperwork, discipline reports, behavior reports, psychological evaluations, a list of diagnoses, inpatient treatment, outpatient treatment. Because the state is saying, if you're going to adopt a child with special needs, you need to know what you're signing up for. This isn't going to be a bait and switch. And who's going to want to sign up for that, for crying out loud? Well, that's the life that Maya was living. In March of 2010, she ended up in Judge Cindy Miller's court in Bryan, Texas. And Judge Miller slammed her gavel and changed her life forever. But the circumstances for Maya were a little bit different. She was in court that day for a different reason. A family read her file and they said, man, we know exactly what we're signing up for. And on that day in March of 2010, Judge Miller slammed her gavel and changed Maya's life forever and made it official. And that was the day that Maya Chavez became Maya Signs. And there we are. There's my wife and my biological kids and the judge. That was the day that we adopted her. That was such a great day. That was on a Tuesday. The very next day, or the very next Saturday, Maya and I had our very first daddy-daughter dance. And there we are getting ready for the daddy-daughter dance. I remember she was so cute. I said, all right, sweet girl, you are beautiful. You've got a new dress. You've got new shoes. And I'm going to take you out to eat dinner anywhere you want to go before the dance. And she was really surprised. Her eyes lit up and she said, are you serious? Anywhere I want to go? I said, anywhere you want to go. You name it. Steak, seafood, lobster. I don't care. Well, how about Chick-fil-A? She chose some, that's worth a laugh track. She chose Chick-fil-A. So we had a chicken sandwich and waffle fries in our formal. Well, it was amazing. And then I remember after the dance, after dinner, we went to the dance and I just wanted to make one point of connecting with her. And I remember we were still getting to know each other. She'd only been with us for about 6 months. And I remember we got to the dance and we settled into our table and sat there for a minute. And I asked her, I said, Maya, do you mind if I hold your hand for a sec? I want to talk to you for a sec. And she said, yeah, sure. And so I remember I held her hand and I took this little picture here. And I said, sweet girl, let's talk for a minute. And there at that dance, I just remember telling her, I just want you to know, Maya, that that my job is to lay my life down for you, sweet girl. My job is to support you, to love you, to nurture you. I know that you have not lived in safe places before, but you need to know that our family is safe, that we're safe here. We're not going anywhere. I will always be your dad and you will always be my girl, and nothing can change that. And then I remember in this moment of incredible insight, she looked at me as a 10-year-old and she said, Dad, I don't think I've ever been loved that way before. And I smiled and I said, oh, sweet girl, believe it or not, I know exactly how you feel. Let me tell you a story about a kid I used to know. His name was Lou. And I shared my story with her, you know, kind of the way I shared it with you. And as I shared my story with her, this peace came over her because I think she realized in that moment, like, this might be a safe place. This guy might actually get me. You know, that was the first, like, she was just cracking the door open to the possibility that maybe this will be safe. And it was a powerful moment in our relationship. And the reason I share my daughter as a case study is just to underscore the generational power that you have. When you walk into your classroom and you build a connection with that student, you're not just changing their life, you're changing the life of the person they will marry. You're changing the life of the kids they will have. You're changing the life of the person they will work for. You're changing the life of the employees they will hire. I mean, that's the power that you have in your role in education. And so it's generational. It's absolutely generational. I'm going to show you a picture in a minute that's going to blow you away to prove how generational it is. But let me share a couple of more pictures and then I'll pause and we'll take a break. My wife and I just celebrated our 26th wedding anniversary this year. This is what our kids look like in 2002. There's my daughter, Alisa, on the left. There's Isaiah in the middle, and there's Andrew on the right. This is what our kids look like in 2008. There's Isaiah on the left. There's Alisa in the middle and Andrew on the right. And this is what my kids look like in 2010. There's Alisa on top, Isaiah on top. There's Andrew on the bottom. And there's my daughter, Maya. That was probably about 2015. That was on campus at Texas A&M. And this was last November. And I'll tell you what, man, we're really, really blessed. That's the generational power that you have. I'm going to show you one more picture. This picture, and this is really, really special. This picture was taken, let me see if I can get the camera to focus in on this. This was taken 2 hours ago. Let's see if we can get that to focus in. I don't know if you can see that. It's a baby there. There it is. That picture was taken 2 hours ago, 2 hours ago. And that, my friends, is my grandson. That's Maya's baby, who was just born 2 hours ago. So think about it. This young man here, his life will be impacted because of his mother and because of his grandfather, all of whom go back to the teachers that I had. So that's the generational power that you have. I mean, I'm not speaking in hyperbole. I'm talking about real lives here that are being impacted. So just be encouraged. You know, the whole reason, before I even get into all that self-care stuff, which we'll get into in a minute, I just need you to understand how important what you're doing really, really is. I mean, that you are shaping lives, and my life and my daughter's life and my grandson's life are living proof of that. So be encouraged and know that what you do matters so much. So you were so important. You were so worth taking care of. So what we're going to do now is I see 8:36 on the clock. Let's take a 5-minute bio break. So do whatever you need to do. Step away. I'm going to keep, don't log off or anything, but just, I'm going to play my favorite music here. Hang on one sec. Don't worry. It's not going to be classic rock. Lo-fi chill hop. There we go. And I want you to just take 5 minutes and then come back, and we're gonna jump right back in with self-care. Okay, we'll bring it back in about 1 minute. 1 minute, my friends. Okay, let's go 30 seconds and we'll jump right back in and finish up our time together. All right, welcome back. Thanks so much for your kind words in the chat. Yeah, I'm a grandpa, man. So there you go. It had to happen at some point, and it happened today. So it's an exciting day for us. And thank you for your warm wishes. Very great. Now we're going to shift into the self-care piece of it in the last 45 minutes that we have. And I told you that I had a special guest in the studio, my colleague, Ashley Jolly. She is a lecturer in the College of Education at Texas A&M. She has worked as a classroom teacher. Then she worked, shifted into the post-secondary setting. So let me bring her on. So here we go. This is Ash. She's in the studio with me. We have several cameras here. Let me do this. I'm sorry. She's yeah. See, there's her hands there. So let's put her camera back on. So welcome, Ashley.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be a part of this.
Absolutely. So Ashley, tell us a little bit about your role in the classroom back in the day.
I started out as an elementary teacher, so I thought I taught first, second, and fourth, mainly in fourth, for about 10 years.
Okay.
And then we had our first child. My husband and I had our first child, and then I moved on to 1 year of church preschool setting, and then I got hired on to A&M as a lecturer in the pre-service teacher department.
Awesome. And so with those students at A&M, what classes are you teaching? How is that working?
I teach junior methods, which consist of 2 classes. One is classroom management, and then the other one is lesson planning and units and how curriculum works. So curriculum and instruction.
Great. So I have 2 things I'd like to hear from you about. Number one, first, with regard to your career in the classroom, think back to your early years. What are like just a couple of nuggets where you say, man, if I could go back and have a cup of coffee with my early career self, these are the things I would say to myself. These are the things I didn't know that I wish I did.
I thought about that, Adam, whenever you asked me to talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 things, immediately came up. And one was relationships are key, and they're first with your classroom. Because I think I did it backwards. Like, you're going to love me because I'm imparting all this education and knowledge to you. And it's actually reversed. I tell my college kids now, you have to put deposits in before you ask for withdrawals, which is a big thing.
Yeah.
And I learned that relationships are first, even if you teach upper grade levels or you have a busy day. It is important to set aside that time and front load your semester or your day, however you're seeing where relationships are needed.
Okay. So one thing you would say is relationships must be first. What other nuggets of wisdom would you give to your early career self?
Set boundaries. And I would set boundaries in 2 different areas. One would be a personal boundary or a personal goal that is a boundary, and then a boundary for your professional self. Meaning my 2 areas that were big for me that caused me to feel burnout were I had to start setting a time to leave or put it away.
So just kind of knowing when to say when with regard to your workload, is that when you
Correct. Like within my classroom, within my lessons, you know this as a teacher, everyone out there knows a teacher's work is never done. There's always something left to do.
Yeah.
So if you say, I've got to get it all done, you will be there till 10 o'clock at night. And then you'll start resenting what you've been called to do.
Yeah, that's great. So notes to earlier career self. Number 1, be relationally engaged. Number 2, set boundaries. Now let's shift to your current work with university students. What are you seeing in students up and coming, that excites you about, this generation of educators? And then what concerns you? Anything come to mind?
I see a lot of positive things. I think it's more positive because the way I set up and speak of education, which is a big thing, to speak into the public of education in a very positive way.
Good.
And I make that very intentional. So my students come out saying, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I picked this. And there's always days, and that's what I teach my students, is there's days that you are going to go home and say, I think all I did today was gripe. I don't know what good I did. But I say, okay, now let's frame that in a different way. And how how did it go that way? And how can you keep it from going down that path again?
So it sounds like part of what you like to do in the classroom is just frame the narrative in a positive light for teachers versus being one of the kind of life-sucking doom and gloom, this is going to suck and you're going to hate it kind of thing. I mean, is that kind of a good summary of that?
Absolutely. And I think there are times when I'm like, yes, this kind of sucked and, whatever.
Sure.
But I also talk it out with myself. And then I also tell my students, talk it out loud to say, you know what, this was just scratch day. We're starting over again tomorrow. So let's see where we're going to end up tomorrow.
Okay, great. And then any last words of wisdom to a young career teacher that's doing a special ed track, that's really focusing on working with students that have disabilities?
I think a big thing in that is to set boundaries that figure out what your number one focus is, and then take on other things that will not take from that focus. Meaning you don't have to be in 50 committees, but you can be in a few and do it really well and still serve your students well and still take care of yourself well.
So maybe be mindful not to try to be all things to all people. Is that?
Absolutely. Because I've learned that you can't. I just don't think you can do everything perfectly.
Did you overextend yourself early on?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what led to my burnout.
Yeah.
And that's what led to, me having to say, okay, is this what I did for my whole life? This is what I want to do. And then I'm like, no, this is what I'm going to do. And I've put myself in this position and how do I correct it? And I did.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Round of applause. Words of wisdom from a veteran educator. Thanks so much, Ashley. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to get into the let's go back to the PowerPoint here. When we talk about well-being, and I'm going to approach it from a holistic perspective, this probably isn't the first time you've heard the phrase well-being, and you hear like self-care, that means eat chocolate, or that means go to the spa. It might, but it could mean many other things too. So let's look at this. This is my life right here. This wheel represents the major areas of my life: my emotions, my finances, my spirit, my body, my occupation. This is me taking care of myself. That green wheel is what my wheel looks like, my life looks like when I'm taking care of myself. But if I'm not taking care of myself, my wheel looks like that red thing. Honestly, I think most of us by the end of last year, I don't know anybody that was the green wheel in May of 2021. I mean, we were done. We were depleted. We were worn out. And that's perfectly fine. It's what you call a dynamic, not a static process, meaning that the wheel shrinks and then we grow it out, and then it shrinks and we grow it out and it shrinks. It's like a lungs, drawing in air and expelling air, or a heartbeat contracting. That's the rhythm of life. It's about being filled up and then being poured out, and then being filled up and poured out. And when we learn to honor that rhythm of filling ourselves up, nurturing ourselves, loving ourselves, making sure our batteries charge, then we can go and invest and pour out. And then again, when we feel depleted, we fill back up. That's where sustainability comes in. It's like the iPhone. When it gets to the red 20%, that means you better plug me in, because if I die, I'm not going to be of any use to anyone. And we sort of have to learn to recognize the sort of what I call check engine lights of our lives. Our cars have check engine lights that mean you better pull over and look under the hood, because if you don't, something bad's going to happen. Well, we have those lights in our life, those check engine lights. So we're going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about that. So here we go. I'm going to talk about each of these 5 areas of well-being here. I'm sorry, hold on. Let me get back to the PowerPoint. I'm going to talk about each of the areas of well-being. And then I'm going to give you a test that you can take later to track your wheel to see what you look like. And then I am going to give you strategies to maintain well-being. So let's jump right in. What is occupational well-being? If I want to be well at work, there are 2 keys, and Ashley alluded to one of them. Number one, I want to have professional community. She actually nailed both of these. Now that I think about it, she said, set boundaries and be connected. So number one, I want to have good community. And what that means is I don't want to just have relationship with students. I want to have relationships with my colleagues. I want to get to know them. And yes, it's busy. And yes, we've got a lot going on, but just, between classes or in the break room or wherever, say, how are you doing? How was your weekend? What's exciting you right now? What concerns do you have? How can I help you? Be connected at a professional level, number one. And then number two is set boundaries. If I want to be well in my occupation, I need to set boundaries. I need to be able to know when to say when. There are times where I come home after a long day work and I tell my wife, like, I am unemployed until 8 a.m. tomorrow. So when we get off this call, I'm unemployed until 8 a.m. tomorrow. So just know when to say when. And your win may look different than the person next to you or than from the teacher who's been doing it for 20 years, but you in your heart need to decide that. So if I want to be well occupationally, these are the two keys. Number one, have good community. And number two, set boundaries. Next one, emotional well-being. If I want to be well emotionally, there are two keys. Number one, I want to be able to experience and appropriately express emotion. And what I mean, it's sort of like what Ashley was saying earlier, is just be real with yourself. If you're frustrated and angry and worn out and you feel like a loser, don't be in denial about that. Go to somebody and say, can I just tell you, I'm tired, I'm worn out, and I feel like a loser. Maybe I wasn't meant to teach. So just be real with the emotion and express it let me go back to the slide. Express it appropriately. That's the key word there, appropriately. So here's appropriate. I pull a colleague aside and I say, look, can I just be honest with you? Sure, go ahead. I hate my job. I'm miserable at it. The kids hate me. I thought I was going to like it, but I'm not feeling it right now. I just feel incompetent, and I feel like I'm out of my league. That's very appropriate, very appropriate. And hopefully that teacher will say, man, I felt that same way for the first 3 years of this. Be patient with yourself, be kind and loving to yourself. That's appropriate. What's not appropriate is to go on Facebook and say, I'm just going to journal about and log in here into Facebook and let everybody know why this school corporation and this campus and this principal suck and why your kids don't need to be going there. That's not here. You know what? I'm going to boo that. That's boo worthy. That's boo worthy. So that's not appropriate. So I want to be able to experience my emotions and then express them appropriately. I don't want to bottle anything up. I don't want to explode on anybody, but I just want to I think of expressing emotion as sort of like, it's just flushing that energy out of the system in a way that's healthy. And then the second one is practice extending and requesting forgiveness. That may seem like a weird one. Like, what does forgiveness have to do with, emotional well-being? Well, the deal is this. If I've been wounded by a colleague, by an administrator, by a student, by a parent, by anybody at work, and I haven't forgiven them, what that means is I still have a grudge. I'm still on my guard. Like, I don't trust you, My favorite definition of forgiveness is surrendering the right we think we have to punish someone for the harm they've caused us. Forgiveness is surrendering the right we think we have to punish someone for the harm they've caused us. And that's so important because, man, I promise you, if it hasn't happened yet, you are going to get hurt. You're going to get hurt. Kids are going to disappoint you. Parents are going to disappoint you. Your colleagues are going to disappoint you. Your administrator is going to disappoint you, and you're going to disappoint yourself. We will make errors, especially in a year like this, so you can count on it. Forgiveness is just about starting a healing process and saying, you know what, you hurt me, you disappoint me, you let me down. I'm going to forgive you. I want to punish you. I want to get even with you. I want to retaliate, but I'm going to surrender the right. I think I have to do that and just let it go. I'm just going to release it. It's not that you're going to become a doormat. It's not that you get, you're not letting people walk all over you. You set boundaries when you need to. Absolutely. But don't hold grudges, because when you hold grudges, it just builds up inside of you and it keeps you from being the most effective version of you. I remember when I started working in schools 20, 25 years ago, I was in my 30s, and I remember looking ahead at the generation ahead of me in education, people that were in their 50s and 60s that were about to retire. Most of them were the kindest, sweetest, most loving people you'd ever want to be around. I mean, they were just amazing people working with kids, you know. But there were some of them that were just the most toxic, crusty, nasty, cynical, just crappy people, you know, like, not that their value was low, but their behavior was crappy and they were hurtful, you know. And I remember thinking 25 years ago, like, I know which camp I want to end up. I want to be with the life givers. I don't want to be with the life suckers. Well, part of what makes me a life sucker is unforgiveness, is when I get hurt and I hold grudges and I get bitter and angry. It's just not helpful. So if I want to be well emotionally, I need to practice extending and requesting forgiveness. Financial well-being. Identify 2 keys here. Identify external factors that impact your relationship with money. Number 2, identify internal factors that impact your relationship with money. So let me break that down real quick. It's really straightforward. The external factor, you're thinking, what does that mean? Well, it's real simple. It's a budget. Do you have a budget? You know, where all of your expenses are accounted for, like every little thing that you spend, entertainment, products like hair care products, or that wasn't, I didn't even know that existed as an item until I got married. So anyway, everything, every little thing that you spend, make sure that it's accounted for in your budget. That's the primary external factor that impacts your relationship with money. And it's 3rd grade math. It's real simple. Like, you spend all this money at the end of the month, and the goal is for this number to be smaller than the number that's on your paycheck. It's just 3rd grade math. You add this up, and the goal is for this to be smaller than the number that you make, right? It's called living within your means. That's the easy part. The hard part is number 2, the internal factors. That's your psychology of money. And, you know, we just know that if my budget's not working out, a lot of times it's because of what's going on inside of me. You know, either I'm using money to medicate my emotions. I spend money just to make myself feel better, or I spend too much money because I think if I don't wear certain clothes, I'm not going to be accepted. I'm not going to be cool. If I don't drive a certain car, if I don't live in a certain neighborhood, that's all internal stuff. That's the internal factor that impacts my relationship with money. And if I haven't sorted through that, the budget's no good, because really I'm using money to respond to the internal chaos. And most of that was established in your family of origin. You know, did you grow up being ashamed of money? Did you grow up thinking that, like, I grew up poor, and the lie that I was told is that money is evil? That's not true. Did you grow up learning to use money to numb your pain? That's really what impacts our financial well-being. It's not so much a budget or lack of it. It's what's going on inside of us that keeps us from engaging the budget appropriately. That's financial well-being. Spiritual well-being. Link your decision-making with your life values. Whatever your value system is, again, you know, a major world religion, a philosophical belief system, rational empiricism, secular humanism, agnostic, whatever your jam is, that's where you're going to find truth, you know? And so ask yourself, when I say link your values with your decision-making, you have to decide what kind of professional you're going to be. You have to decide what kind of parent you're going to be, what kind of spouse you're going to be, what kind of neighbor you're going to be, what kind of parent you're going to be, what kind of child you're going to be to your parents. And so think about, well, what does it mean to be a Christian and to be a teacher? What does it mean to worship in Islam and be a teacher? What does it mean to be agnostic and be a teacher? How can those different value systems manifest value in my life around me? The whole point of having a value system is that it's supposed to be the expression of value. Like, I should be manifesting value in my life because of the system that I believe in. If it's not manifesting value, it's not a value system. It's just an ideology. It's just like this theoretical theology or psychology or philosophy. But if it starts to manifest value in the world around me, that's a value system. But I've got to make that link between what do I believe and how does that belief impact my behaviors as an employee, as a spouse, as a parent, as a child, as a neighbor, as a colleague. So that for me is the essence of spiritual well-being. And you know, I've got a doctorate of ministry in pastoral counseling. I've been an ordained minister for 15 years now. And I'm in my opinion, I think even if your worldview does not ascribe to the presence of a transcendent being, if you're agnostic, atheist, you can still have a deep sense of spirituality about what you do. And then the next thing is share your life with like-minded individuals. Whatever you believe, just choose to live your life with people who believe the same thing so that you can have those discussions. What does it mean to be agnostic and raise children that are healthy and contributing to society? What does it mean to be a Zen Buddhist and teach in a classroom? What does it mean to worship in Islam, to be Muslim, and to lead children in the classroom? Talk that out. But if you're not sharing your life with people who believe what you believe, it's not going to happen. So that's spiritual well-being. Last one is physical well-being. Take care of your body, and it's just real straightforward. Practice good nutrition, get 20 minutes of exercise a day, and sleep well. Those three things are the keys to physical well-being. So again, big picture, I said the first thing I wanted to do was define well-being, because when we think about what does it mean to be well physically, does that mean I need to be able to run a marathon? Not necessarily. What is financial well-being? Does that mean that I need to be able to retire when I'm 30? Not necessarily. Now I think you have a better idea of what wellness actually looks like in those 5 areas. So here's the $1 million question. How well are you? How well are you right now, my friends? I forgot who it was. That he was an economist in the 50s. He was a skeptic too, and he had this quote that I love. He said, "In God I trust; all others must bring data." And I kind of like that. I don't, forgive me, I don't mean to be offensive, but I don't trust you when I ask you how well you're doing, because you're probably going to say, "I'm fine, I'm good," and I'm going to be like, "Well, hey, you know what? I'm a licensed psychologist. No, really, how are you?" And I start digging in your stuff. Well, maybe you're not doing that well. So I don't trust your answer for that. So here's the deal. I'm going to send this to Marcy Wilburn at some point tonight, and she's going to send it out to you. There's a test that you can take. Let me see if I can find it here. Hang on one sec. Bear with me. Here we go. This is in the book, The Power of a Teacher. So hold on one sec. Let me cue this up, and I'll show you where in the book it is, but I'm going to give this to you for free. Okay, so let me show you, first of all, I'll show you in the book where it is. So in this, all of this material, by the way, that I'm talking through it's straight out of this book, The Power of a Teacher. That's what this is about. I share my story early on, and the rest of it is how do you get well-being in each of these areas. So that's what this book is about. And if you open up to page 111, I believe it is. Yep, you'll see this page here. So let's let that focus in for a minute. See where it says, you see my finger all over that. It says occupational well-being, and it says I am able to let go of frustrating or challenging situations over which I have no control, and such blah, 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 blah. Those are 10 items to measure your well-being in occupational well-being, right? So that page right there, this page right here is this PDF. So you see there, number 1, it says, I'm able to let go of challenging or frustrating situations, blah, 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 blah. I want you to take this test when you get a second, and it doesn't take 10 minutes to finish. So what you do is you go through occupational well-being and you do true or false. Number 2, I'm confident in my knowledge of my content areas and my ability to teach it at a grade level, true or false. Number 3, I'm generally satisfied with my vocation, true or false. So these are all about work. And then what you're going to do is you're going to answer this and write down the number of true responses and put that number right there. So if 8 of them were true, you're going to put an 8 right here. If 6 were true, you put a 6. So that's occupational well-being. Then we go to emotional well-being. So check this out. Number 11, I harbor no unforgiveness in past or present personal relationships, true or false? Or do you harbor for unforgiveness? Number 2, I harbor no unforgiveness in past or present professional relationships, true or false? Number 13, I have a positive self-image and I have forgiven myself for my past mistakes, true or false? So again, you go through, this is emotional well-being. We come down here, financial well-being, spiritual well-being, number 40, and then physical well-being, the last 10, and then you get to number 50. Okay. Then what you're going to do is on this wheel, this is where you chart the wheel. So you're going to come down here and put your true responses. So if you had an 8 on occupational, you'll put an 8 right there. And then you'll go to the occupational spoke and put a little dot like right here. That's like, that's probably an 8. If you scored on emotional well-being, if you're not doing so well and maybe you scored a 5, then you come over here and put a little 5 right there on that spoke. And then financial, you guys are early career teachers, so you're all probably rich. So you'll put a Now here, that was supposed to be a joke. So maybe you put a 3 for financial well-being because you have $78,000 worth of student loan debt and you're making $500 a month. Spiritual. And so basically you plot your data and then you connect the dots to see what your wheel looks like. So if we get back to this, hold on one sec. Back to the PowerPoint here. There. Let me go back to this wheel. So this person scored a 10 out of 10. That green wheel is 10 out of 10. Like they're just killing it. You know, this is my A game. This person scored like, you know, that might be a 4. Maybe this is a 6. That's probably a 4 or 5, 4 or 5, and this is a 7. You know, and it just gives you a sense of what your wheel looks like, you know. And here's the way you can think of it. There's so many ways you can think of it. Number one is, so let's get back to the wheel here. Pretend you're a unicycle and that's your life wheel. Well, the question you have to ask yourself is, what kind of ride are people getting on my shoulders? You know, like if I'm the wheel and they're on top, like my students are depending on me, then whenever there's a bump in my wheel, whether it's physical, occupational, whatever, everybody that's depending on me is going to feel that bump. So I say this quite a bit. One of the most loving things I can do for people depending on me is to offer them the best version of myself. So self-care, it's not about narcissistic self-absorption. That's not self-care. That's just narcissism. It's not about that. Self-care is an act of love to people that are depending on you, because again, one of the most loving things you can do to people depending on you is saying, I'm taking care of this so that you can depend on this. You can count on this. This is going to be a game for you. That's an act of love. And so that's your act of love to your students. That's your act of love to your spouse, to your roommate, to your parents, to your kids, everybody that's depending on you. Self-care is your expression of love to them. So just keep that in mind. All right. So how well are you? I don't know. Take the test and find out. And then depression sets in. You know what? I'm going to boo that. Not necessarily. I'm sure y'all are killing it. So then joy sets in. So what I'm going to do now is I've given you some definitions, you know, about what does occupational well-being look like? What does emotional well-being look like? Now, you know, there's a test that you can take. It's sort of like an assessment to kind of get a sense of what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are. And again, we'll get that out to you shortly. Now, let me give you some practical recommendations. I'm just going to go through and give you practical strategies. These are things that you can start doing right now to grow well-being. And my guess is that most of you don't even need to take an assessment to figure out where you're struggling. Most of you know whether it's financial or emotional or physical or occupational, whatever it might be. So I'm going to go through and give you some practical recommendations for the next 10 minutes. And then at the end of it, I'm going to open it up to Q&A. You can ask me any questions about any of the self-care content or about my personal life, about my story, my journey, anything you want to ask me. You're not going to ask me a question that's too personal, I promise you. So we'll do that. So let's get back to the PowerPoint, and I'm going to give you some practical recommendations. Number one, occupational well-being. Reach out to a colleague that's struggling and just listen to them. You know, you don't have to fix anything. You don't have to solve anything. Just listen. Reflective listening. You know, how are you doing? Oh, good. Oh, how was your weekend? You know, that kind of stuff. It goes so far to build good community. Questions are a great way to build relationships. So if you see that one of your colleagues is struggling and you just sense like, man, they just don't seem right. They seem a little bit off. Write them a note, a little sticky note, send them a text, send them an email, and just say, man, I see you, I hear you. And man, maybe it's just me, but you looked a little off. And I just want you to know I'm here for you. Is there anything I can do to love you or support you? That's huge. And so it's an act of love to them. And the more I do that, then when I come in and I'm having my bad day, people are going to cue into that. And they're going to say, hey, Adam, it looks like you're having a bad day. Is there anything I can do to help? And so that's how we start building those reciprocal relationships. Is it starts with me reaching out. And the more I model that, the more that becomes the norm. So if I want to be well occupationally, I want to reach out to a colleague that's struggling and just listen to them. Next one. Talk to your family, to whoever you go home to, your spouse, your partner, your roommate, your family, whatever it is, and just say like, hey, you know, can you help me know when to say when? So my wife is an occupational therapist. She works for Bryan ISD, Bryan Independent School District, and we've been in schools for 20 plus years now. And we told our kids many, many years ago, we told them like, look, when August rolls around, you're not going to get the best of our attention. Just know that until Labor Day, we're going to be focused on work and we're going to help you get your school year up and running, but we're not going to be as available as we typically are. But here's the deal. That can't be the normal. That can't be how we live our lives. That just has to be for a window. And so if you guys start feeling like we're neglecting you after Labor Day and into the semester, that's not okay. And so you get to come up to us and say, hey, mom and dad, like, no, you can't work. Put that computer away. And my kids have done that. Like, put your freaking laptop away. So talk to your family, whoever you go home to, and just bring them into the conversation and say, what do boundaries need to look like in this house, in this apartment? And then, create a contract. So those are some recommendations for occupational well-being. Emotional well-being. This is hard, but ask for feedback. Just ask people around you, like, when do you see me get crazy? Like when are you embarrassed to be around me? Ask somebody that will be honest, not, because some friends will be like, oh no, what are you talking about? You're fine. Everything's great. No, you ask somebody that's going to give you honest feedback and say, well, thanks for asking. Because, man, whenever you talk politics, you act a fool. Whenever you talk about your ex, you act a fool. Whenever you talk about kids, whatever it is. Because when I start acting a fool, that tells me there's some kind of emotional storm going on deep inside of me. And I need to be aware of that. So there you go. Reflect on your family of origin experience with regard to emotion. What was modeled for you? Did you grow up in a family of exploders? Where everybody just sort of launched their hand grenades and left? Did you grow up in a family where you were free to feel any feeling and to talk about it? Did you grow up in a family that was stoic, where we don't do emotion in this house? That shaped how you experience emotion. Believe it or not, your family of origin experience hugely shapes how you experience emotion. Next one: forgive somebody. Man, if you've got bad blood with somebody, if somebody hurt you or did you wrong, forgive them. It takes a tremendous amount of strength to forgive, and you win, you benefit. Forgiveness makes you better. It makes you healthier. It makes you stronger. So recommendations for occupational well-being. Financial well-being: establish accountability, man. If you're struggling financially, one of the worst things you can do is keep it a secret. And my wife and I have learned that over our many years of marriage. She grew up sort of upper middle SES and I grew up low SES. And man, we could never agree on, when we got married, about how much is an appropriate amount to spend for a meal or a shirt or a, whatever, a hair product, what I alluded to earlier. I seriously, I had never heard the term thread count associated with the word sheet until I met my wife. I literally didn't know that there's something about that, and it's supposed to be like 10 bazillion thread count, or it's not a good sheet. I didn't know that, So we fought about like, no, it's going to be this, no, it's going to be that, And man, one of the best things we ever did as a couple years ago was to sit down with another couple and say, you know what, man, we just keep fighting about money. Can y'all help? And it's not that we don't, it's not like we need, I'm not talking about retirement planning. I'm not talking about investment. I'm talking about how we spend our money. We're fighting about it, and we just need more voices in the mix here. And it was really, really good, for us to sit down with a couple that love us, that we love and we trust, and we got feedback, and it just became something that we could talk about with other people rather than it being me and her fighting with each other. So if you're struggling financially, if something's not working for you financially, please just find somebody to talk about it and get help. And you'll be glad that you did. Reward yourself for your self-discipline. Maybe you pay off a credit card, then treat yourself to I don't know, something cheap like a Netflix binge, or a nice long hot bath, or I don't know what it would be, but just reward yourself for your financial discipline. Spiritual well-being. I like this one here. Write yourself a letter. Like we just did this exercise earlier tonight. Write yourself a letter reminding yourself why you chose to enter into education, including the hopes you have for your investment in your calling. So just document that and keep a calling journal. With the calling journal, one of my teacher friends calls that her smile file. And I've got one, like when I present or teach, people will email me and say, hey, Adam, man, you talked about this. It was really, really helpful. Thanks so much. Keep up the great work. Man, I print every one of those things, and I've got them in a box about that big, just stacked full of emails of people, because there are days where I'm not feeling it. I don't want to be here. This sucks. I don't want to log on to another Zoom call. I don't have the energy for it. I don't have the desire for it. I don't have the passion for it. And when I get to those moments, I go back to my smile file. I go back to my calling journal and say, that's right. That's right. That's right. There's a deeper purpose. There will be good days ahead. So I would just encourage you to keep a journal of all the good moments. Start now, early in your career. Document any pictures you have, any notes that you get, any emails that you get, any memories that you have. Write them down, because in years to come, you're going to want to reflect back on those for encouragement. Physical well-being. Find an exercise partner. That's always a good one. If you can find an accountability partner, somebody that you walk with. My wife does this thing called Orange Theory. It's not my jam, but it's hers. Her and her girlfriends meet twice or 3 times a week, and it keeps them accountable. They love to talk and visit with each other. It's a great workout. When I work out, that's I don't want anybody looking at me or breathing my air. I go into my garage. I have a gym set up, and I do. If that's my Zen time. So I don't want a workout partner. I want workout loneliness. That lights my fire. But maybe you find somebody to go walk with you, somebody to go to yoga with. I do. That's one thing I do with people is yoga. My daughter's she's in nursing school now, and she's a yoga instructor. For Father's Day, she said, "Dad, I want you to come do hot yoga with me." And we did the 75-minute class. It was like 105 degrees, and it destroyed me. And I absolutely fell in love with it. So I do hot yoga twice a week, and I don't mind doing that with other people, because nobody talks, nobody looks at me, and I don't look at anybody, and everybody's quiet, so it works for me. But just find somebody to partner with and do some little thing for your body. Practice effective sleep hygiene. That just means have a good rhythm at night, be in bed at the same time. If possible, take all the media out of your room so that you just read a little bit and then go to bed. But sleep hygiene refers to the routine or sleep routine. I will. So that's it. Those are my recommendations for all that. I will. Pick one thing. That's what that slide I will is. Just pick one thing. Like if you're not doing well right now, pick one area. You don't have to set these broad goals and all these 5 areas. I'm going to, save up $1 bazillion and I'm going to run the Boston Marathon. And, no, that's great. If you feel like those are attainable goals, then you go right ahead. But set small goals, set like just little baby steps, and maybe just in one area of your life. So do that and just pick one thing and grow well-being. And then I would invite you to partner with somebody and say, hey, I want to be well. Like by the end of the semester, by the end of the summer, I saw this picture of somebody on a beach, and that's who I want to be. I want to be good. I saw this picture of a guy skateboarding, and he made it look so easy, but I knew he put a lot of work into it. Well, by this time next year, I want to look like I'm doing well. I want to look like I've been taking care of myself, that I'm managing my life well. Can we do that together? Can we walk on this journey together and find somebody to connect with and pick one thing? All right. So that's it, man. That's self-care 101 in a nutshell. So what I want to do now is I want to stop and I want to give you a chance to come back to me and or Ashley, who's still in the studio with me, to ask any questions of me or Ashley about any of this. I would be happy to answer, and so would she. So here, I'll do this. I'll play the sync music one more time to inspire your thought. In the meantime, I'll go back to that life wheel. Can I give a sneak into the book study? Man, I'd be thrilled to do that. So the book study, let me get the book. Here, I'm gonna flex a little bit here. This is the new cover of the second edition, and look at that IP, Independent Publisher Book Award. Man, I'm here. You know what? I'm gonna do that for myself. So I'm so honored and so proud of this book. It won the gold medal in psychology for the independent publishers. This is mostly about adult SEL. So when I say adult SEL, what I mean by that is, hold on one second. I'm going to try to pull up a PowerPoint here real quick that can that can kind of illustrate what I'm talking about. Here we go. When we talk about SEL, we're talking about these 5 things here. Check this out. Self-awareness, number 1, self-management, social awareness or empathy, and relationship skills. When these things are in place, when these 4 things are in place, I make good decisions. This is me living my best life. Oh, sorry, hold on. I went to the wrong slide. Here's another way to think of it. SEL. Those 5 things like this. It starts with me knowing myself. Then once I know it, I can regulate it, but I can't regulate what I'm not aware of. Then I add empathy and social skills, and that's me living my best life. So we think of this in terms of kids. You know, typically this is a child-focused model. So we think kids, yeah, those kids need to be self-aware. Yeah, those kids need to be self-managing. They need to have empathy. They need to connect with each other, and they need to make good decisions. Yes, they do. And guess what? So do adults. So the book, the way I will lead the book study, it's really about helping you as an adult understand what you need to be aware of, the sources of your stress. How do you manage your stress? How do you manage what's your personality? How do you manage your personality in a classroom? Empathy, how do you have empathy, and what kills empathy from an adult perspective when you think about the kids you're working with? Social skills, how do you connect with other colleagues, and how do you make good decisions as an adult living this life? So broadly speaking, the book is about SEL, but I'm going to walk us through it through an adult SEL model. What does this look like for me as an adult? And so I'm super excited about walking y'all through that. And you're going to learn, you know, about your personality style, what you're good at, what you're not good at, the sources of your stress, how to regulate the stress. And then I'll do, by the end, I will do a child-focused lesson where I will teach you how to help kids manage their emotions. So there will be a specific, probably the last session will be about, okay, I've got me in control. I'm regulating myself. I'm aware of myself. I'm good. I'm solid. What do I do with the kids now? And we'll spend time on that module as well, just giving you a roadmap to help kids manage their emotion. So that's it. Yeah. So that was the sneak peek. I'm scrolling through. Teachers are group learners. How can I best share your wisdom with them? That's a great question, Michelle. Here's what I would do. I would go to, let me see if I can pull this website up here real quick. We'll go over here. Let me do, hold on one sec. Bear with me. Okay, I'm going to slide this over here and then pull it up on this screen. There we go. So here's one thing you can do to share me is you go to YouTube and you put Adam Saenz channel right there. There. And then when you go to Adam Saenz channel, go to this Adam Saenz PhD. And then here's some videos here. These are just workshops I've done. That's one way to share. There's a sample of our SEL curricula, you know, a video that we do in English. There's one in Spanish. So this is all free. And then another way that you can share is if you go back, if you go to YouTube and search Adam Saenz, you'll see this is a TED Talk I gave at Yale. And that is, there's an advertisement there for Cruella. That's not what I'm promoting. This is me sharing my story, kind of the way I shared it with you, and I talk about my daughter in this TED Talk. That's another way you can share wisdom. So yeah, those are some great ideas there. Let's see. So thank you for asking. Let's see. Tips for keeping a positive attitude when working with a student with behavior issues every day, day after day, never miss the school. Yeah, Rita Pearson said it, man. The ones that wear you out the most are the ones that are most faithful to show up. I've heard it said this way. A breath is the smallest act of self-care. A single breath is the smallest act of self-care. So what I would do is I would take 30-second breaks every 5 minutes, literally, and just step back and go, I'm breathing in peace. I'm breathing out my frustration. Breathing in calm. I'm breathing out my anger. And just taking 5 deep breaths, believe it or not, will reset your nervous system. It will shift you out of your sympathetic nervous system, which is fight or flight, and shift you on. It shifts off fight or flight and it shifts on rest and digest. So you go from sympathetic to parasympathetic. Breathing, 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 breathing. Keep a journal. You know, all of those feelings at the end of the day, just vomit into a journal. Don't vomit onto Facebook. Don't vomit to the parent or the kid. Vomit into your journal and then burn the journal page or whatever, but just get it out of your system. Find a support group, find a teacher where you could just say, look, I'm really, really struggling. I want to do the right thing, but this kid's wearing me out. Can you just be my listening buddy? You don't have to fix me. You don't have to give me advice. Just listen to me, unfiltered, just, and just know that I just need to talk, you know, and this is a safe, it's just between me and you. Don't spread this, but I just need to word vomit. Find a safe place to do that. That's another way to get through the day. Another thing, have empathy for the kid and ask yourself, what is it like to live this kid's life? If I had his disability, how would I be living? If I was his age and experienced the thing that he or she lived, would I even be functioning this well? Would I be more of a life sucker than this kid is? And just try to understand their pain. Just try to understand, what is it like for that child to walk into my classroom, you know, and could I even do that if I were in their shoes? And that'll grow you empathy for them. And then say to the student, so let's say the kid's name is Adam, say, Adam, you know what, man, I just want you to know something. By the end of this year, I hope we know each other better. I hope that by the end of the year that you like me. And I don't know if you like me or not, but man, I really want you to like me. And I want us to like each other. So I just want you to know, man, as weird as that sounds, like by the end of the year, I really want us to like each other. And so just know that I want us to be connected. Stuff like that, man, every day. Those are just some tips. Let's see, modeling that. Yep, you can. Yeah. Great. Let me ask this, Marcy, let me go to the chat. Do you guys still have an archive of the breath, mind and body series available? I wonder if I don't even know if that's a thing anymore. I've got the files on my end, but I'm wondering, oh, you do. Well, if it's appropriate to share those might be great resources as well.
Absolutely. I can add them into the email that I send out with the handout as well, just a link to access all of those, because they're all on our website.
Awesome.
So I'll link that in there.
Yeah, that's a series I did last year. I think there's 9 videos where I talk about breathing strategies for adults. These are short videos, like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. Breath strategies, stretching strategies to get the stress out of your body, ways to move your body to release the tension. And then the last one, the mind series, or cognitive strategies, way to reframe your thinking so that you don't get bogged down in these negative feedback loops. They're on YouTube and we can get those out to you. And very actionable strategies. Awesome. Any other questions for me about anything at all that we've covered? We're coming to the end of our time here. All right, man. Well, you know what? Someday you'll look back and say, Adam Saenz, I was with him the night he became a grandpa. My first grandkid, man. I'm excited. So there you go.
Well, thank you, Adam, so much. We appreciate you being with us this evening.
Yeah, you bet.
And we so look forward to the book study beginning next week. We hope that you get to see and hold that grandbaby before next week, hopefully.
Yeah.
And please, I know I put it in the chat as well, but if you haven't signed up for the book study and you're interested, if you could do so by tomorrow afternoon, that way we can put the books in the mail so you'll have them prior to next week. So again, thanks, Adam. Thanks, Tara. Thanks, Tracy. And we hope to see you all back again next week. Have a good evening.
Good night, y'all.
Good night.